got about 22 runs under our belt here in Trench Warfare Drill in the Nutnfancy project, and yet we have to make time for the SIG 1911. This is a Nitron rail. It's the end of summer 2011. See how this sucker goes.
All right, at the beep.
I'm hoping it's reliable, man. Suck it. Ah. That's too bad.
So, right now you're thinking mag problem?
I don't know, man. That mag's been good in every other 1911 I've shot. We'll try it on your run, see how it does. Oops. Cool, 4 out of 5. Ow! I endoed, man. Sucking. I kind of felt that in the early 2000s, SIGs were kind of on the outs. So when I got serious about TMP back in 08, one of the first pistol reviews I did was the SIG P226. Longtime TMPers know that. Called it the Warrior pistol. Still love it. And I've pretty much always been a SIG fan because of how many things they do right with their guns. Now, they do make some mistakes. I'm very honest about bringing those to the table. And I'm going to do the same with this gun right here. How about we talk about the SIG 1911 series in this tabletop review. Now this is culminating about 5 years of testing of the type off and on here in the project, not continuous. I couldn't say that I've shot any SIG 1911 super extensively. Even with tacticalammunition.com sponsoring us, we rarely ask for ammo from them. I don't take advantage of it. 45 ACP is just expensive, and I don't reload, don't have time. But I have put enough rounds through the type, and this is going to be the main one, SIG 1911 Nitron, to give you some good data. And so you're going to watch the tabletop review like we always do. We're going to go up down all the points, a little bit of POU, SAWC, design, ergos, field strip, accuracy, track record, all that. If you haven't watched my vids before, it goes something like this. You're not watching third-party advertising here. You're not. And I guess that's become prevalent. I didn't know it either. So you may watch a very positive review on a gun, or who knows, whatever item, knife, whatever. And it turns out the guy was paid to do that so-called review. Literally, paid cash, money. That's never happened here in TMP. My opinions cannot be bought. It's always been that way. And that's what you're going to get in this tabletop. Might be good, might be bad. It's just the data as I see it. The consistent philosophy as I see it. So here you go. That's what we're going to do. My overall take on this gun is it's probably better than the internet says. I did click around and see what some websites, what commenters are saying on, I guess they're owners of SIG 1911s. Honestly, you just don't really know. Anybody can comment and they can say they own this gun, that gun, and you just don't know. And it's really hard to tell what's truth and what's not. But it seemed like people were really kind of down on the type of the few websites I went to. I didn't really watch any vids on it. And I went back and I reviewed all my footage with this gun, the Nitron, having shot it since 2011, and some of the targets I'm going to show you are dated from 2011. In fact, probably all of them are. And it's a lot better than people are saying. a lot better. And I think this is a pretty representative pistol of the entire lineup, by the way, because they're all pretty much the same. You'll have differences in finish, differences in grips, maybe some features. Some may have threaded barrels, some may not. Again, this is a 1911 Nitron rail. Been in the project since I was going to say 1999. Since 2011 is what I meant to say. Other versions, and I'll just kind of jump through the line. I'm going to show you a screenshot of various versions. You have the 1911 Extreme, and I think it's got those G10 gray grips on them. Really good looking gun. I've always liked the 1911 Scorpion. If I got a Scorpion, it would be with a threaded barrel, because I do live in a suppressor state where I can put a can on it. I like cans. Then you have the Fastback series, which I think came out to compete against the Smith & Wessons. I haven't shot the Fastback series. I would imagine they're pretty good, though. Tac Ops threaded barrel. Those, by the way, have some really cool grips on them. I love the Ergo XT grips. I've put them on some other 1911s. I love them. They're pretty affordable. Man, they give a great grip. And then you have the smaller size, the commander-sized ones. The 1911 carry Nitron. Just a smattering of various versions of the SIG 1911. Before we get into a brief reminder, and that's all it's going to be, a philosophy of use, you can tell by looking at this gun it's a SIG, right? And I think that's a huge upside to people who like and are attracted and that have used extensively, either personal or duty use, the P series. Because if you look from right about here, it's almost like you're looking at a, whatever, P226, 227. The slide milling is just cool. It's very SIG-ish. So they've taken the 1911 design and put their own, I don't know, twist on it. The SIG twist. And I really like how it looks. It's cool. Now, depending on which version you get, you can have like rounding of the sharp edges, because this Nitron rail, I wouldn't say it's sharp, but you can kind of see the transitions here. But it's a handsome gun. It's a really good looking 1911, in my opinion. I like it. Which will kind of lead, I guess, to, I said a reminder of philosophy of use, and that's all it is, because I have a whole video on 1911 philosophy of use. I posted it back in 2001. I'm kidding, it wasn't that long ago, but it seems like it. I don't know, it was about 5 years ago or something I posted it, and not much has changed on my opinions about the 1911. As a very brief reminder, I personally do not use these as go-to-war guns. And I don't apologize to the internet for that at all. I just don't. Now, that when I say go to war, I'm talking about something in a man-portable system I would be carrying. As a home defense gun, look to the video again. We have a long discussion there. Absolutely. As a collectible, absolutely. Cool gun, fun. Now, the SIG series, is it collectible in the sense it's going to gain in value? Hard to say. I would say maybe not from what I know so far, but who knows? Collectible, kind of. Yeah, recreational gun and range, maybe / competition gun, is where I get excited about the 1911. When we do running guns, I'm armed with a good 1911 like this, like some of the others I've shown in the project. I like them. They're fun. I can hit good with them. They're fast. They got a smooth, consistent trigger. They're down some rounds, but we make up for it with a 10-round magazine. That's in the POU. Again, go look at the video. I've put it at the top the whole time. Click on it, and that discussion is there for you to see. I will add this. I kind of have the sense, and I could be totally off on this, that the fervor for 1911s has abated slightly. I just have that feeling. And that's all it is that it used to be really crazy about 5 years ago. Guys were really getting into it. I see a lot of them for sale on the secondhand market. If you put it up against a modern pistol, combat pistol, SIG, Springfield XDM series, Smith & Wesson M&P series, heck, even the Canik TP9 series, you name it. Glocks, of course. They come out second best to me. That's how it is, dude. Usually in terms of SAWC and sometimes in terms of reliability. We have a discussion about that. Go to the video. How about SAWC design and ergos? This is where we go kind of point by point. Again, we're looking at the Nitron. I guess I'll start here with the grips, and they are good looking. These are Cocobolo grips, cut checkered, really handsome. They do give a little bit more circumference to the grip of this frame. The beauty of a 1911 is that it is, of course, highly customizable. The question begs, though, if you go out and spend nearly $1,000, actually we'll call this 800-ish, on a 1911, should you have to go out and customize it at all? I say no. Get one that suits your preferences, and hopefully you don't have to do anything to it. That's money better spent. Unless, like we said in the POU vid, you want to use it as a project gun, just changing it, modifying it, and that's totally cool too. Like the grips, they give good purchase. Again, we mentioned some of the other ones that they have on the SIG 1911 series. I love this front strap checkering that SIG does. 25 lines per inch. It's not too rough, and yet it gives perfect traction. Have it back here on the back strap too. So it locks in nicely, in my opinion. Let's take a look at the Magwell. Slight chamfering, a little bit of funneling going on there, not a ton. Speed bump on the grip safety. Really nice beaver tail, no slide bite. That takes us to the safety, which is excellent. A big plus on the entire series, I would say. And here's what I mean. Number one, it's very low profile. I've been shooting 1911s, I don't know, a lot for the last 10 years, off and on, of course. And safeties are come way out here. I just find myself accidentally engaging them. I do. I know it's probably my grip, but I bump them. And I have a Smith on the table. I think this is 178011. It's a Pro Series. Great gun. This is kind of along those lines. This is not exactly a big safety, but it's ambidextrous, left and right hand sights. And let me safety check this one real quick. And so to engage it, it actually goes up a little bit easier than I would want it to. And that's the problem. So you're coming here, and it's happened with all kinds of shooters watching the videos. Next thing you know, your safety's accidentally engaged. So this is low profile. I didn't find that to be a problem. I found it to be advantageous, actually. Some other SIG 1911s may be different, and it's very positive. So nice strong spring in that tube there. It's just really positive. Commander style hammer, no surprise there. And that brings us to the trigger of the SIG 1911 series. I will tell you, I was not overly impressed with it out of box. You may hear me saying that in the insert video during the tabletop video.
Really good accuracy.
Run and gun, trench warfare, other shooting I did. It wasn't awesome.
Ready.
It seemed like it pulled too hard, had some creep to it. So I had to do something about it. I just did. And if we're going to put a likability scale down on the SIG 1911s, it has to reflect how it came out of box. My number will do that in the description right up. It will. Now, I took it to Yoda. He did a 1911 trigger job on this, and as is, it is very crisp. He got rid of all the creep, and it pulls at about 5 pounds. It seems lighter. And he could have done it lighter. He's like, what do you want this to pull at? And I was having shot some 1911s in run and gun here in TMP. I was like, well, I don't want it too light, because that's a problem. Because as you're coming up to target, and you've probably seen that over the years here on camera, I never edit that out. It's like, oh, boom, you know, I accidentally, you know, cook off a round when I don't mean to. It happens. The way it is now, perfection. 5 pounds, just a slight amount of take up, crisp break on the SIG 1911 with the Yoda trigger job. Well done. Out of box, not so awesome. There's really not much to talk about on the frame except the accessory rail, which is very, imagine this, SIG-like. So pick standard, throw lights, lasers, whatever you want on there. I like it though. What I didn't do is run this in a lot of holsters, and sometimes these rails can get in the way, especially with plastic or Kydex holsters. You'll actually do some scraping. You'll have to get one fitted specifically for a railed 1911, and perhaps it won't fit a SIG. I don't know. I didn't really try that. Just something to think about though. Incidentally, the slide is made of stainless steel, nitron coated in this instance, and so is the frame. I think that's stainless steel as well. Steel framed gun means it's going to be heavy. 39 ounces total carry weight. That's with an empty magazine in it. Pretty standard. Any steel framed, non-scandium or aluminum framed or alloy frame 1911 will weigh about that. Like I said in the POU vid, that's good weight when you're recreational shooting. Or if you just don't have to, you know, carry the gun long distances. I actually like a heavier pistol once I'm in position. It settles it down, makes it easier to shoot. How about the sights? Novak style. I think these are Novak milling cuts too, so if you do want to swap them out, you can. I really love the Nitron rail and some of the other versions because they come with tritium night sights. 3-dot variety. I want to turn the lights off. Let's see how bright they are. These sights, by the way, are not new. So we're looking at, what is it, 15 now. They're 4.5 years old. Trying to get that front sight visible for you guys. I don't know if you can see it.
Ran pretty good.
Out there somewhere, you can barely see it. You know, tritium vials, they'll lose brightness after a while. Here, let's do it this way. Probably wasn't lined up.
I forget what I did. I had to look at it. Other than that, it's 100%.
I have tritium sights that are about 12 years old. They're still glowing. Not brightly, but there's something there. You know, they beat the other style of sights that you have to actually show some light on. No problems with sights at all, except, let me bring that Smith & Wesson back in here. I like adjustable combat sights like this one. So here's a Novak sight. Now granted, these have light pipes in them, which, you know, I've just had a you know, mixed luck with those things. I'm talking on the front here. They break off and snap easily. They're kind of a competition style sight. I just don't know if they're super suited for a GTW pistol. It is adjustable though, so you can drift it in the dovetail and then you can adjust for elevation with a screw. On this particular 1911, I kind of wish it had that. Let's take a look at this. That is the firing pin plunger on the SIG 1911s, and yes, they are Series 80 pistols. I used to really care about this, to be honest with you. I did not like Series 80 pistols, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, they have a firing pin safety and a 1911 that is so-called Series 80, has 4 additional parts in there to make sure the firing pin does not move forward until this firing pin plunger allows it. It has a channel cutout in it to allow movement of the firing pin after the trigger is depressed. There's 4 parts in here, which basically result in this being pushed upwards. You pull the trigger, firing pin goes forward. Now the Series 70 pistols, a la Colt, don't have that. In fact, there's a lot of upper scale 1911s that don't. Nighthawk, Dan Wesson, Les Bear, Ed Brown, STI, Wilson, to name a couple. And I used to really think that, you know, a Series 80 pistol kind of sucked, to be honest with you. I've changed though, because I've done so much shooting at this point in the project with Series 80 pistols, kind of like this one, that I don't really notice it. For instance, let's go back to the trigger. And one of the criticisms, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but one of the criticisms of this is that it's going to result in a you know, rougher trigger pull. And that's understandable because you have, you know, extra parts rubbing against each other here within the frame and the lock work. But again, I don't notice it. Not on this. Now, if you were to take this 1911 in the dirt and the grime, get it dirty, chances are it's probably going to jam on you, to be dead honest with you. The gun, when I get it really dirty, and I don't care what brand it is, they sometimes just have problems. They're just not, I don't know, they're just not that reliable when they're super dirty, from our experience here. And by the way, that experience is not super extensive, just a few brands. And then perhaps you would notice a drag on the trigger, but who's going to get it to that point? I think most guys use their guns, their 1911s I'm talking about, maybe for carrying a steel framed one, less likely, but for range use, competition, recreation, home defense. And I think in those philosophies of use, those applications, a Series 80 pistol, I don't think most guys will care. Now, that being said, I would prefer a Series 70. I know it sounds like I've just changed, but I don't like protectionist features in the gun. I've never liked them. A good example are the Ruger pistols that have that stupid indicator saying chambers loaded when up. Magazine safeties are another, you know, so-called protectionist feature I hate. In other words, here the magazine's out of the gun, right? I can still fire it. You know, there's some other guns you can't do it. You have to have the mag in. I just don't like it. On those terms alone, I would prefer a Series 70. SIG isn't doing it though. You're going to get a Series 80. You're going to get the firing pin plunger, just like you see here. Is it a showstopper with most folks? I would say absolutely not. Most people won't even know. It works pretty good, and I'll say that about the Smith & Wesson series too. I've shot these guns a lot. Never had an issue with them. Never said, man, there's a lot of drag in the trigger. Now you can make the case, well, you did have a gunsmith. That's true, I did. And the trigger was not super awesome prior to that. So, point taken. How about track record? SIG 1911 series. Mostly reliable. We did have some bobbles during trench warfare, Crockett 20 and myself, when we ran this magazine. It's a Kimber 10 rounder. And I remember back then, I did post a video of running it, the SIG 1911 in the trench. And guys are saying, well, you shouldn't use that magazine with a 1911. You can expect problems if you do that. And I will disagree with that. Absolutely. Because I think any quality 1911 should work with any quality 1911 magazine, whether it's a 10 rounder or not. The one that actually had the problem was, and I engraved these and I'm glad I did, was I think this one, number 1. I reviewed the video, but I forget which number I was saying. And so recently I took it back to the range, ran some rounds through it, and it was 100%. About 2 boxes worth. And that was enough for me. Through this magazine and some others. And I'll show you the footage of that. So, point being, was it the gun or was it the magazine? At this point, I kind of tend to say it was the magazine. I know, it should work. What's in here now? I couldn't even tell you. I have so many 1911 mags from different manufacturers. It's just a smorgasbord. There's some others too that we ran with the gun. Taurus, Wilson Combat, Chip McCormick, Smith & Wesson mags, Metgar. We ran them all. It was reliable with all of them. There is some criticism out there on the SIG 1911 reliability. And I don't think it's made up. I think guys have had issues with their guns. I also don't believe in break-in periods for full-size pistols. They should be completely reliable out of box. Any gun that isn't is going to get, what I say, like a two-point hit on the likability scale. That started last year. Let's visit accuracy of the SIG 1911 series. And before we do, let's check frame to slide fit. And this is after this gun has been shot a fair amount. Not a ton, but I would say overall, span of 5 years, 400 rounds, 500 rounds. Didn't really keep track. No movement at all. Going back to the reliability discussion, some guys, aficionados of 1911s, will say, well, they have tight tolerances, they're more finicky with ammo. You have to put up with that to get the accuracy out of them. That may or may not be, I don't really know. Again, I expect it to be, I don't know, 100% out of box and to be accurate. Even for 1911, and there's some that still to this day get that formula wrong. From what I can see, SIG doesn't. Again, the tolerances are tight. As you're going to see, the accuracy is excellent. Let's check that out while we're here. First up, I'm going to show you a target from the SIG Pro Series by way of reference. This is standing in 2011. This is 1911 I showed you earlier, right there. Real quick. 7 yards. Not too bad. And then we'll go back to 2011. And one is from me, and there's some rounds from Yoda here too. This is post trigger job after Yoda, by the way. Not bad. Really good group there. I like that. Terry G, that is Terry Gardner. Call sign Yoda. There's his group. Really nice group there. I had some 20-yard targets I've since lost in the years that have lapsed. Here's Terry Gardner with his trigger. Decent group there. Mediocre group, to be honest. I'm putting in one hole right there. Okay group. Now at 7 yards, I'm expecting this. All in the orange, so that's a mediocre group too. My take though, and that's all I'm showing you, other than what I'll show you in video, and I will show you a lot of that. My take on the accuracy is that it is good to excellent. I wouldn't say outstanding, because outstanding is there's just something magical about the gun. Though, at least when it interfaces with me as a shooter, that I can just put it all day long into a single hole at 7 yards. It's good to excellent. It's probably better than you are as a shooter. So good to excellent accuracy, I'll leave it at that. Field strip is 1911 standard. Here's a photo. Actually, some photos. Notice, by the way, it's a short guide rod, not a full-length guide rod, true to the John Browning design. And I don't think that hampered accuracy at all. And you'll hear 1911 guys say this all the time. You do not need a full-length guide rod in your 1911 for the gun to be exceptionally accurate. Look inside the frame, quality of the barrel. The whole feel and look of the gun is high quality on the SIG 1911s. And then for me, when I put the 1911 back together, whether it's a SIG or whatever variety, again, I make sure the rails are lubricated properly. Locking lugs have some lubrication in it. Not a ton, but enough for this style of pistol. How about accessories for your SIG 1911? Hey Nutton, what would you recommend for the gun? Probably a trigger job, just like I did with this one. But there's a lot of great gunsmiths that do trigger work on a 1911. You could do it yourself if you are so inclined. That really wakes up the gun, makes it better in my opinion. It kind of needed it. Again, I was not super impressed out of box with the trigger. Talking about accessories though, that might be where I'd stop. Now I'm discounting the obvious. If it's a home defense gun, I put a weapon light on it, something like a TLR4, but I wouldn't change the sights out. I mean, we went with the Nitron rail because it comes sighted in from the factory, which by the way, the regulation on these sights was excellent. They shot point of aim with most loads. They're tritium, so they're night sights. They're made of steel. They're durable. I'm not swapping them out. Grips, not swapping them out. That's kind of what I said at the beginning. Get the model you want, and then you minimize your cost. You know, and SIG, holy cow, they have a broad expanse of 1911s to choose from. You should be able to find the one you want exactly. Now, as you can see, this is a righty gun, not ambidextrous. So if you are a lefty, this particular model won't suit you too great. You'll have to look to something that will. Okay? But as far as other accessories, well, magazines always. But if you're watching this video, chances are you have a bunch of 1911 mags already. You should have 8 per gun, says me. 8 per gun. You just never know legislatively what's going to happen. I would even recommend getting some 10s with it. I usually use these mostly, as you see, for running and gunning. You know, just the drills we do in TMP. Would I use it in a home defense roll? Put a 10-rounder in? Nah, I wouldn't. It'd just get in the way in the pistol box. I might have one extra handy. We'll have tested it with my defensive load to make sure it's 100% reliable. Yeah, I'd do that. How about holsters? I mentioned it briefly. It's a 1911. Railed 1911. There's all kinds that will fit it. That's about it. I wouldn't put anything else on it. You know, there's probably plenty of MIM'd parts, but I think the discussion, as far as I'm concerned, on MIM'd quality is kind of over. I mean, on basis of second kind of cool, you can say, well, I don't like MIM'd parts. I only want forged. I get it, but you can't really fault their performance at this point. Not from our testing we've seen here. They work. They're not flying off the gun and breaking all the time. They're strong, consistent, and more affordable. I mean, it's, you know, less expensive to do MIM. I've always said, if you can give me a forged part, hand fitted for the same price, I'm down. I'll do that. Problem is, you can't do that for the same price. Keep in mind, these upscale 1911 producers, Wilson, STI, Ed Brown, this goes back to that third-party advertising thing I introed with. In other words, I'm not that. You know, Springfield, in some situations, Nighthawk, they want to create a difference in your mind about their 1911s, and it's going to be very subtle, but some guys really obsess over it, whether it's front, you know, the treatment of the front strap, every material, maybe they mill the back of the slide, things that make their 1911 stand out and supposedly more special, That way they can charge you $2,000 for it. And they do. And guys pay it. Not me, but other guys do. The question is, by getting this SIG, which again is going to be around $800, what level of first kind of cool is delivered versus those uber expensive guns? I don't know. You know, it's kind of probably like driving a Corvette versus driving a Ferrari or Lamborghini Huracan. You know, both fast cars, great cars, get the job done, but maybe there's that extra something, specialness, smoothness of the gun. And for upper tier, upper echelon competitors where they need that, and it can really result in microseconds of time shaved off their scores, maybe then it makes sense. So I ballparked value again around $800, but it could be a lot more depending on the version of SIG 1911 you're buying. What other options do you have at that price point? Well, if you've been watching TMP for a number of years, you should know already that I love Smith & Wesson 1911s. Again, this is 178011, test bed here in TMP for a number of years. Maybe one day I'll tabletop this, but it's pretty much excellent. Just like every other Smith & Wesson 1911 we've shot here. I wouldn't say they're like totally reliable. We've had, you know, an occasional jam here and there, just like I've seen with most 1911s and shooting them, with a variety of magazines, a variety of loads, a variety of real-world non-range conditions. It's just the way it is. But overall, this is an excellent 1911, right around that same price point. So look hard at Smith & Wesson. Handle the SIG, Smith & Wesson back to back. If you can, go to a range, shoot both, get a feel of which one you like best. How about CZ 1911s? How about, from what I know, they're excellent. I love them. They are usually going to be more expensive, sometimes much more expensive than the SIGs, the 1911s I'm talking. But from what I know, they're really good guns. Paras, I don't have a ton of experience with them. I try them. Springfields, yeah, those are excellent. Probably going to be more. And again, those are non-Series 80 pistols. So if that's important to you, you might look at Springfield, or for that matter, Ruger. I think they only make Series 70 pistols. So just something to think about. Taurus, yeah, still making a great 1911. On par with the SIGs, debatable. Debatable, though. I think for the money, though, around $700 to $800, we'll call it, you're getting a lot of 1911. I would buy it again, even knowing what I know now. I just do a trigger job on it. You know, if it does have some problems, send it back to the factory. They'll hook you up. I know, it's irritating. It should be 100% out of box. You know, where you been, man? I've been preaching that forever. I'm a lot less patient with manufacturers that don't get their guns right these days. Have a good quality control system in place. Test fire your guns before you ship them to your valuable customers. You'll have a lot fewer problems. Just comes down to QC, though. Ultimately, I think this 1911, not just a Nitron rail that you've been looking at the whole review, but anyone in the series, whether it's the TAC Ops, the Scorpion, the Extreme, the carry versions, the fastbacks, will appeal to guys who already love SIGs. They have a P-Series pistol. They want to have a 1911 for whatever reason, for whatever application, and they really love the handsome, chiseled SIG looks backed up by the SIG reputation. And I don't think that's overplayed. I think there's something to it. I recommend them. I think they're a great 1911 option for you guys. That's my review. Finally, see ya!